As we are concerned, the 100 days so far have been 100 days of disappointment, 100 days of misses, 100 days of underperformance, and 100 days of failure to deliver in terms of the expectation of the people. As you know, the end of the Mugabe regime was not an end of a man. It was an end, in our view. It was supposed to be an end of a system, an end of a system of corruption, an end of a system of marginalization, an end of a system of exclusivity in terms of how we govern, how we do our politics. But the first test of the failure of Mr. Mnangagwa in his 100 days was his inability and failure to be inclusive in making sure that there's a transitional mechanism to usher in a new dispensation for our country and for our people. So that was the first test of leadership, and that it was failed. The second one, you are aware that in terms of our government, there are mega books that have been made in terms of just failing to interpret the Constitution. For example, as the president came in, he could not understand that there's a distinction between the number of ministers who are permissible to be admitted as members of the cabinet, who are not in parliament. He had to correct that error. You are aware of the issue of the deployment of the vice president to be in charge of a ministry is constitutionally contestable at law. Those are some of the issues that have been made as mistakes by this government. But what is clear for us is that this new administration also failed to articulate the benchmarks of the first 100-day program. There was no plan. Other than the plans of action that were asked from the ministries, we did not see any plan upon which we can then go and say, on a catalogue of issues, they've done 5 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, because they did not articulate the journey that they were going to travel. So right now it's being done nocturnally and nicodemously. We do not even know what they had promised in terms of delivery. So yes, we are where we are. There has been total disappointment in terms of the conduct of the administration. You see that in the economic field, particularly on the economic front. Queues are still there. Cash shortages are still abundant. In fact, there's no cash to talk about. Economic reforms that have been indicated have not been run to their full course, particularly in the context of the opening Zimbabwe for business context. You find that our cross-border traders are still facing problems in terms of the threshold of the duty-free goods. Within the region, about $500 is the minimum threshold for our duty-free goods, but within our context, we only have about $200 that is permissible. So it's a hardship for our people, and it's also going to hamper entrepreneurial activities, particularly by our cross-border participants. You have also seen the human rights situation deteriorating. Look at what has happened. In the first 100 days, we have lost lives on account of police brutality. It is not something that is encouraging. It is not something that we would appreciate and welcome. The issue of Itai Zamara has not been attended to. We're expecting that the new administration will at least launch an inquiry into what happened, consistent with the promises that were made by the previous regime, but also consistent with the court ruling that the government has to update the nation on what happened to Itai Zamara. One life lost is a life far too important just to be ignored. We have not heard anything from President Mnangagwa. He has not addressed this issue. It remains an issue where we would say there has been failure. We have also seen that there has been an escalation of muzzling of the press, particularly the public media. We have not seen any other political parties being covered. That is against the spirit of the Electoral Act. Of course, they say after the proclamation and the issue of the nomination having been done, there has to be then that public monitoring process. But just to say that we have a new dispensation, we're supposed to then see a new approach in terms of the coverage. The only time an MDC leader is covered in the public media is when they are being accused of either murder or some other crime, or when they are accused or alleged to be facing an arrest. That's when you then appear in the newspaper. So you cannot expect alternative politics, alternative politicians to be seen or to appear in terms of the public media, particularly ZBC. The issue of social services is all evident for you to see that clearly Mr. Mnangagwa is not fit for purpose. Mr. Mnangagwa is out of depth in terms of what must be delivered to the people of Zimbabwe at a technical level, but also at a leadership level. We understand that he has been part of this system for the past 37 years. And what we've seen is that we've seen 100 days of the past 37 years. We've seen 100 days of the past failure. We've seen the replication of the old system. And there's nothing new. There's nothing new in terms of the politics, the leadership, the approach, the governance, the delivery. Performance targets are not being pursued. The issue of corruption has not been dealt with. What we have seen is vindictiveness on the part of internal ZANU-PF politics, pursuing the so-called G40 people without necessarily dealing with certain culprits who are within government. And this is the challenge we are giving to Mr. Mnangagwa, to say, yes, you have lost on your time. You are now out of time. Let us prepare for elections and let us have a new administration. An administration we are going to be leading and we are ready to lead. And then show them how a 100-day program is going to be arranged. The first thing we are going to do is to officially recognize them as an opposition and make sure that they are given official status as an opposition, and make sure that all our State of the Nation addresses are done after consultation with the head of the opposition. I hope it will be Mnangagwa, then Ochiwenga, or whoever is going to be leading. I will invite them to State House to engage them on this serious problem, so that we are giving an alternative to the new dispensation that we are going to usher in. I've just given you a summary of the issues. We have said that nothing has been done. It's too little, too late for them to even talk about a new era. It's actually a new regime of mistakes as far as we are concerned. I want to thank